Disclaimer. This content is a work of fiction. All characters are fictional. The story is not based on real events or actual legal proceedings. Before the gavel fell. Episode 4. The motion to withdraw. Chris Katagis decided to stop participating. Not dramatically, not with an argument or a refusal. He simply stopped responding. No more docket searches at midnight. No more printed filings folded into labeled folders. No more answering blocked numbers or unexplained calendar invites. He told himself the system only worked because people engaged with it, because they reacted, because they treated silence like a puzzle instead of a boundary. So he drew one. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. No new filings, no emails, no calls. The quiet felt different this time. Less heavy, less intentional, almost ordinary. Chris allowed himself to believe that was the end. Then the motion appeared. It wasn't filed online, it wasn't emailed, it wasn't mailed. It was waiting for him on his kitchen table when he came home one evening. A single sheet of paper. No envelope, no fold marks. Typed cleanly. Centered text. Motion to withdraw. Filed by Chris Katagis. Chris stood there for a long time staring at it as if the page might explain itself if he waited long enough. He had not written it. He had not signed it. But at the bottom of the page was his name. Printed, not forged, not stylized. Correct. The motion was brief. It stated that the undersigned sought to withdraw from all current and future proceedings, effective immediately, and requested removal from any associated records, reviews, or administrative actions. No justification given. No argument made, just a request. Chris sat down slowly. The system had responded. He read the motion again, carefully this time. The language was precise, neutral, almost polite. It sounded like him. That was the worst part. At the bottom of the page was a line he hadn't noticed before. Status. Pending review. The next morning, the docket reflected it. Motion to withdraw, filed, pending. Chris refreshed the page. Still there. For the first time since courtroom 4, something he hadn't initiated was happening in his name. By noon, the status changed. Review scheduled. No time listed, no room assigned. Just the word. Chris felt the familiar tightening in his chest. That afternoon, he went to the courthouse anyway. Not because he was summoned, because experience had taught him that absence did not equal exclusion. The building was quiet. Too quiet for a weekday. He checked the directory, no listing under his name. He waited. At 3:06 p.m., a clerk approached him. "You're early," she said. "For what?" Chris asked. She glanced at her tablet. "For the review." Chris followed her without another word. They didn't go to a courtroom. They went to an office. Small, windowless, a single desk, 2 chairs, no seal, no flag. "This isn't a hearing," the clerk said, as if reciting a rule. "It's an administrative consideration." "Of my motion," Chris said. "Yes." "Who's considering it?" he asked. She paused. "The record." She left. Chris sat alone, the door closed behind him. 10 minutes passed, then 20. At 37 minutes, the door opened. Not a judge, not a clerk. The woman from episode 3 entered. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, sitting across from him. Chris met her eyes. "I'm allowed to withdraw." She smiled faintly. "From a case, yes." "This isn't a case," Chris said, and she nodded. "That's the problem." Chris slid the motion across the desk. "Then explain why it exists." She didn't touch the paper. "The system doesn't like loose ends," she said. "It doesn't like undefined participants." "I didn't ask to be involved," Chris replied. "No," she said. "You were useful." The word landed heavily. "Useful for what?" Chris asked. "For continuity," she said. "You gave the irregularities a shape, a name, a reference point." "I want out," Chris said, and she leaned back. "That's what the motion says." "Then grant it." She shook her head slowly. "Withdrawal requires replacement." Chris frowned. "Replacement?" "Yes," she said. "Something must take your place in the record." "Like what?" Chris asked. She hesitated, just a fraction too long. "Like another subject," she said. Chris felt a chill. "So you'll do this to someone else?" She met his gaze. "It's already happening." The room felt smaller. "What happens if the motion is denied?" Chris asked. The woman looked down at the paper for the first time. Then the record acknowledges you permanently, she said. And if it's granted? Chris asked. She exhaled. Then the record forgets you. Chris leaned forward. That sounds like what I want. It isn't, she said quietly. He waited. When the record forgets you, she continued, it doesn't erase what happened. It just removes attribution. Chris swallowed. Meaning? Meaning the actions remain, she said. The decisions stand. But no one remembers who they happened to. Chris sat back. That's worse, he said, and she nodded. Yes. Silence filled the room. Finally, Chris spoke. What's your recommendation? He asked. The woman looked at him carefully. Withdrawals create instability, she said. Participation contains it. So, I stay involved to protect the system? Chris asked. She shook her head. No. You stay involved to protect yourself. The door opened. The clerk returned holding a tablet. The review is complete, she said. She looked at Chris, then at the woman. The motion, the clerk said, has been conditionally approved. Chris felt a brief surge of relief. Conditionally? He asked. Yes, the clerk said. Pending assignment. Assignment of what? Chris asked. The clerk hesitated. Assignment of role, she said. Chris looked at the woman. She nodded once. You're no longer just a subject. What am I now? Chris asked. The clerk checked the screen. Observer, she said. The word hung in the air. You're free to go, the clerk added. Chris stood. As he left the building, his phone buzzed. A notification. Role updated. Observer status active. Below it, another line appeared. Access granted. Chris stopped walking. For the first time, the system wasn't asking him to participate. It was giving him permission. That night, when he opened the public records portal, he saw things he hadn't before. Hidden entries, layered notes, cases nested inside cases. He realized something then. The system didn't stop when you refused. It adapted. And when it couldn't remove you, it promoted you. Chris closed the laptop slowly. Somewhere, another motion was being drafted. Not by him, but about him.